He was the man who dreamed of a new humanity, not through enlightenment, but through extermination. A bureaucrat with the soul of a fanatic, Heinrich Himmler transformed the Nazi vision from hateful rhetoric into industrial murder. While Hitler raged and Goebbels deceived, it was Himmler who organized, who systematized evil itself. Behind his wire-rimmed glasses and soft-spoken demeanor lay the architect of genocide. But how did a failed chicken farmer become one of the most powerful men in the Third Reich, and one of the most feared names in human history? Stay until the end, as we unravel the chilling rise and fall of Heinrich Himmler. Heinrich Luitpold Himmler was born on October 7, 1900 in Munich, Germany. His father was a strict schoolmaster, his mother deeply religious. They raised their son with discipline, patriotism, and an almost mystical respect for authority. From an early age, Himmler was a quiet, bookish boy, fascinated by order and obsessed with German history. He dreamed not of fame or fortune, but of belonging to something greater, something pure, something eternal. When the First World War broke out in 1914, young Himmler was too young to serve. By the time he joined the Cadet Corps, the war was nearly over. He would never experience combat, and that absence would haunt him. Like many Germans of his generation, he watched his country collapse under defeat, revolution, and humiliation. The Treaty of Versailles stripped Germany of its pride, and the myth of the stab in the back, that Germany had been betrayed from within, became his guiding conviction. In the chaotic 1920s, Himmler drifted between failed studies and odd jobs. He studied agriculture, hoping to become a farmer, but his ambitions were larger than his abilities. It was during these years that he discovered the rising National Socialist movement. In its rhetoric, he found everything he longed for: discipline, purpose, and above all, a mythic vision of racial purity. By 1923, Himmler had joined the early Nazi Party and took part in the failed beer hall putsch, Hitler's botched coup in Munich. Though the uprising collapsed, it marked Himmler's initiation into a new kind of faith. He wasn't drawn by personal charisma or military glory, but by ideology. To him, Hitler was not just a political leader, but a prophet of national rebirth. When the Nazi Party was banned, Himmler remained loyal, quietly working in the background. By 1929, Hitler appointed him Reichsführer SS, the head of a small paramilitary group with fewer than 300 men. At the time, the SS was little more than a personal bodyguard unit for Nazi leaders. Under Himmler's direction, it became something entirely different: an elite order built on absolute obedience, racial ideology, and the cult of the Führer. Himmler was not a soldier, nor a charismatic speaker. He ruled instead through organization, fanaticism, and an obsessive attention to detail. He envisioned the SS as a new knightly order, a racial vanguard that would secure the purity of the German people. He imposed strict racial criteria for membership, demanding proof of Aryan ancestry back to the 18th century. He banned smoking, drinking, and even marriage without his approval. To his followers, he preached discipline and mysticism in equal measure. In Himmler's view, Germany's salvation depended on blood, not metaphorically, but literally. He saw himself as a kind of high priest of race, tasked with protecting the genetic health of the nation. By the early 1930s, he had transformed the SS into a powerful, semi-independent force within the Nazi Party. When Hitler took power in 1933, Himmler's influence grew exponentially. As Reichsführer SS, he took control of the new concentration camp system. The first camp, Dachau, opened in March 1933 under Himmler's authority. It was designed not yet for mass extermination, but for re-education, a place to imprison and break political opponents. The commandant, Theodor Eicke, turned Dachau into a model for all future camps. Rigidly organized, brutally efficient, and dehumanizing by design, Himmler oversaw it all with clinical detachment. He rarely raised his voice, never gloried in bloodshed, and yet demanded total ruthlessness. To him, cruelty was not a vice, it was a duty. He once said, "We shall not abandon compassion, we shall act out of love for our people." But in practice, his version of love required the destruction of everyone else. Through the 1930s, Himmler expanded his empire. In 1934, after the Night of the Long Knives, the purge that eliminated the rival SA leadership, the SS emerged as one of the most powerful institutions in Germany. Himmler gained control of all police forces, including the Gestapo, the secret police that would terrorize Europe for the next decade. He built a vast bureaucratic network that reached into every corner of German life. His officers recorded genealogies, monitored churches, and conducted racial studies. He founded the Ahnenerbe, an institute devoted to pseudoscientific research into ancient Aryan history. Its scholars searched for proof of Germanic superiority in skull measurements, folklore, even in the ruins of Tibet. When war broke out in 1939, Himmler's ambitions expanded with it. The invasion of Poland provided a new laboratory for his racial experiments. The SS organized mass shootings, expulsions, and forced resettlements. Villages were burned, populations displaced, and entire communities vanished. In occupied Poland, Himmler began the first systematic efforts to Germanize conquered lands, deporting Poles and Jews, while resettling ethnic Germans in their place. At first, the policy of extermination was not yet fully defined. Himmler's men experimented with different methods: shooting, starvation, disease, searching for efficiency. As the war widened, so did the scope of genocide. The invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 marked a turning point. Under Himmler's authority, the Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing squads, followed the German army eastward, murdering Jews, communists, and other undesirables by the hundreds of thousands. Himmler personally visited execution sites, witnessing mass shootings in the east. After one such massacre in Minsk, he reportedly grew pale and nauseated, but only momentarily. His reaction was not moral disgust, but bureaucratic concern. He worried about the psychological toll on his men, not the fate of the victims. It was this observation that led him to support a more humane method of killing, the gas chamber. By 1942, Himmler's SS was fully in charge of the final solution. He oversaw the construction and operation of extermination camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor. Under his supervision, genocide became an industrial process, carried out with precision and secrecy. Trains arrived daily, carrying Jews from every corner of occupied Europe. Within hours, most were dead, their belongings catalogued, their bodies burned, their ashes scattered. Himmler never viewed himself as a monster. In his mind, he was a soldier performing a grim but necessary duty. He spoke of extermination as a moral burden, one that only the SS was strong enough to bear. In his infamous speech at Posen in 1943, he addressed senior officers. "We had the moral right. We had the duty to our people to destroy this people which wanted to destroy us." It was a moment of chilling candor, a bureaucrat justifying genocide in the language of duty and morality. As the war turned against Germany, Himmler's power only deepened. He expanded the SS into a vast military force, the Waffen-SS, numbering over 1 million men by 1944. Though often depicted as elite soldiers, many units were little more than brutal enforcers, responsible for massacres across Europe, from the burning of Oradour-sur-Glane in France to the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising. Meanwhile, Himmler's personal obsessions grew stranger. He believed himself a reincarnation of a medieval knight. He built Wewelsburg Castle as the spiritual center of his SS order, a place for rituals, symbols, and dreams of a 1,000-year empire. While his soldiers burned villages, Himmler pondered runes, astrology, and Nordic myths. By 1944, even Hitler began to distrust him. Himmler's attempts to centralize power, his secret negotiations, and his growing arrogance alienated other Nazi leaders. Yet, he remained indispensable, the man who controlled the police, the camps, and the intelligence network. When the July 20th plot to assassinate Hitler failed, Himmler took personal command of the crackdown, ordering thousands of executions. But as Germany collapsed, his loyalty wavered. In early 1945, with the Red Army closing in, Himmler began secretly negotiating with the Western Allies. He hoped to position himself as a potential successor, claiming he could ensure order in post-war Germany. When Hitler learned of his betrayal in April 1945, he was enraged. Himmler was stripped of all titles and expelled from the Nazi Party. Still, he tried to flee. Disguised as a common soldier, Himmler moved through the ruins of northern Germany as the Reich crumbled around him. On May 21st, British soldiers captured him near Bremen. They didn't immediately recognize the thin, bespectacled man, but when he revealed his identity, they knew who they had. In custody, Himmler remained calm, even polite. He refused to take responsibility for his crimes, insisting that he had acted out of love for Germany. On May 23, 1945, during a routine medical examination, Himmler bit down on a hidden cyanide capsule and collapsed. Within minutes, he was dead, escaping the trial that would have exposed him before the world. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, somewhere near Lüneburg, its exact location still unknown. Himmler's death closed a chapter of horror, but his legacy endured. He had built a machinery of murder so vast and efficient that even after his death, its scars stretched across continents. Unlike Hitler, whose madness was visible, or Goebbels, whose lies were theatrical, Himmler's evil was administrative, methodical, calculated, and disturbingly ordinary. He saw genocide not as passion, but as policy, and that is what makes him perhaps the most chilling figure of all. Heinrich Himmler began life as a timid, idealistic student, and ended it as the architect of mechanized murder. He never commanded armies on the battlefield, never won a single medal for valor. His weapon was bureaucracy, his battlefield a desk, his victims millions. He once believed he was creating a new world, purified and strong. In the end, he created only ashes. Perhaps that is the darkest truth of all, that evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through paperwork, uniforms, and polite words of duty. How does a man convince himself that genocide is morality, that cruelty is compassion, and could it ever happen again? Not with guns and gas, but with silence and obedience. Tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more deep explorations of World War II history. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.